The annals of history are filled with figures who made startlingly accurate predictions about the future, often based on keen observation, logical extrapolation, or sheer genius. Their prophecies only became true long after their deaths, cementing their legacies as true visionaries. Here are some of the most remarkable examples across different fields. 1. Leonardo da Vinci, 1452–1519, The Flying Machine. The Prophecy. Throughout his notebooks, Leonardo made detailed sketches and descriptions of flying machines, including an aerial screw, a precursor to the helicopter, and ornithopters, machines with flapping wings. He wrote extensively about the principles of aerodynamics and the anatomy of bird flight, convinced that human-powered flight was possible. Fulfillment. It took nearly 400 years for his visions to become reality. The first sustained, controlled, powered flight was achieved by the Wright brothers in 1903. The helicopter, which his aerial screw closely resembles, became a practical reality in the 1930s and 1940s. 2. Nikola Tesla, 1856–1943, The Wireless World. The Prophecy. Tesla envisioned a world connected by wireless technology. In the early 20th century, he described a system where people could communicate instantly across vast distances using a device small enough to carry in a pocket. He also predicted wireless energy transmission, global communication networks, and even the precursor to the internet, calling it a world telegraphy system. Fulfillment. The smartphone in your pocket is the direct fulfillment of Tesla's prophecy. It combines instant wireless communication, phone calls, text, access to a global information network, the internet, and a host of other functions, all operating through the invisible ether he described. 3. Jules Verne, 1828–1905, The Moon Landing. The Prophecy. In his 1865 novel, From the Earth to the Moon, Verne described a mission to the moon launched from a site in Florida. He chose Tampa Bay, not far from the real Cape Canaveral. His spacecraft, named the Columbiad, was a projectile capsule launched from a giant cannon. He correctly calculated that the astronauts would experience weightlessness and that the return journey would involve splashing down in the ocean. Fulfillment. In 1969, Apollo 11 was launched from Florida, carried 3 astronauts to the moon, and returned to Earth with a Pacific Ocean splashdown. The parallels between Verne's fictional mission and the real one are uncanny. 4. H.G.Wells, 1866–1946, The Atomic Bomb. The Prophecy. In his 1914 novel, The World Set Free, Wells not only predicted an atomic bomb, but also gave it its name. He described a war using uranium-based hand grenades that continued to explode for days, causing devastating, long-lasting destruction. He foresaw that splitting the atom would release immense energy, a concept physicists were only just beginning to grasp. Fulfillment. The first atomic bombs were used in warfare just 31 years later, in 1945. The concept of a chain reaction and the sheer destructive power Wells described were horrifyingly accurate. 5. Alexis de Tocqueville, 1805–1859, The Cold War Superpowers. The Prophecy. After traveling through America in the 1830s, the French political thinker wrote Democracy in America. In it, he made a stunning geopolitical forecast. There are at the present time 2 great nations in the world. I allude to the Russians and the Americans. Their starting point is different, and their courses are not the same. Yet each of them seems marked out by the will of heaven to sway the destinies of half the globe. Fulfillment. Over a century later, following World War II, the world was indeed dominated by a bipolar struggle between the United States and the Soviet Union, dividing the globe into spheres of influence during the Cold War, 1947–1991. 6. Sir William Osler, 1849–1919, The Obsolescence of Medical Textbooks. The Prophecy. A founding father of modern medicine, Osler famously stated that half of what a medical student learns will be shown to be wrong or obsolete within 10 years of their graduation. The problem, he said, is that no one can know which half. Fulfillment. This has become a foundational principle in medical education. The rapid pace of biomedical research, from genetics to immunology, constantly overturns established practices. The quote is still used today to teach young doctors the importance of lifelong learning and evidence-based medicine. 7. John Adams, 1735–1826, The American Civil War. The Prophecy. In a letter written in 1820, the second U.S. president expressed his deep fear about the future of the Union. He wrote that he could not see how the issue of slavery would be resolved without a terrible, violent conflict. He saw the Missouri Compromise as a temporary fix that only papered over a fundamental and irreconcilable divide. Fulfillment. The American Civil War, fought primarily over the issue of slavery, began 41 years after his death in 1861. It remains the deadliest war in American history. 8. H.G.Wells, again, the Second World War. The Prophecy. In 1933, Wells published The Shape of Things to Come, in which he predicted a second, even more devastating world war originating from a dispute between Germany and Poland. He forecast it would begin in the 1940s and involve massive aerial bombing of cities, leading to widespread civilian casualties and the collapse of the old world order. Fulfillment. World War II began with Germany's invasion of Poland in 1939. The war was characterized by strategic bombing campaigns, the Blitz, the bombing of Dresden, Tokyo, and Hiroshima and Nagasaki, that devastated urban centers just as Wells had foreseen. These examples show that while prophecy might sound mystical, it is often the product of a brilliant mind connecting the dots of their present to see the logical and sometimes terrifying trajectory of the future. 9. John Elfreth Watkins. Prediction date, 1900. Prediction, photographic technology. A relatively unknown American engineer by the name of John Elfreth Watkins wrote an article called "What May Happen in the Next 100 Years." He penned it in December 1900, with many of his ideas being incredibly far-sighted. One such prediction was the invention of new photographic technology. "Photographs will be telegraphed from any distance," he wrote. "If there be a battle in China 100 years hence, snapshots of its most striking events will be published in the newspapers an hour later. Photographs will reproduce all of nature's colors." Watkins was demonstrating incredible foresight, as not only was color photography still very experimental in 1900, but the idea that a camera could transmit images across the world was beyond what anyone was saying at the time. Conclusion. These examples show that while prophecy might sound mystical, it is often the product of a brilliant mind connecting the dots of their present to see the logical and sometimes terrifying trajectory of the future.